Hello, everyone. Welcome to the online courses in the Age of AI bootcamp. This is session 3. We're going to talk today about the playbook for marketing and selling courses in the age of AI. If you are ready, if you can hear me, because we need to do the tech check. If you're excited, drop the word excited into the chat so that we know that everything is working. Everybody is ready to go. Wave your arms in the air if your camera is on. Thank you, Elvire, just like you did. That is exactly what I like to see. That is the energy that's going to make it a great session today. Awesome. Well, welcome. There's a ton that we're going to cover. So clear the next 90 minutes of your day, close your cell phone, your email, your social media, your browser, your door, anything that might distract you, and get something you can use to take notes because we're going to go fast. And I want to start by telling you about a student of mine named Happy Leopold. And the work that he does is providing financial education to Canadian immigrants and their families. And he launched his first pilot a few years ago when he came to me, and he earned a few tens of thousands of dollars in revenue, which is not bad, but not change your life forever money. But he went from there and he built on that and turned that into 6 figures in revenue in his first year, and then multiple 6 figures in his second year, and then 7 figures in his third year, which was just last year. So this is recent. And he did that using the exact strategies that I'm going to teach you on this call today. So you're going to learn that and also a whole bunch more. We're going to talk about what are realistic financial goals with courses in 2023. The answer might surprise you. We'll talk about what market research must look like in the age of AI. There are big changes to this space. We'll talk about why AI makes selling courses harder and my strategy for beating the odds. We'll talk about how AI can help you seed the market with desire, so sales are easy when you launch. And I'll share with you my top 4 go-to course selling strategies and how to execute them quickly with AI. And as I think most of you know, this is part of a 3-day bootcamp. So on Monday, we started with an overview of what ChatGPT is, including a live demo of creating a course with ChatGPT in a matter of minutes that a lot of people found, frankly, shocking. And then we talked more about the limitations of the technology. We talked about the garbage in, garbage out problem, the fact that these technologies aren't trained on the best information on your topic. They're trained on all the available information on the internet. So for GPT 3.5, it's the internet up until September 2021. Newer versions will be more current, but the training data isn't curated. It's all of the internet, and there's a lot of garbage on the internet. That's the first issue, garbage in, garbage out. And second, we're not talking about any kind of sentience or discernment. The AI doesn't understand your questions or the answers that it gives you, which means that it will be wrong a decent portion of the time, but it will be confidently wrong. It will have no awareness of the fact that it is doing the high-tech equivalent of bullshitting on a test because it has no awareness of anything at all. So that's the second issue. Even though it's garbage in, garbage out, it won't have any awareness of whether it is right or wrong. And that points us to a right way and a wrong way to use these technologies, particularly when it comes to online business and online courses. The right way to use AI is to do a lot more of what you're already capable of doing and doing it a lot faster. But you need to treat the AI like an infinitely hardworking and only reasonably competent assistant, which means that you have to give it hyper-specific instructions in the form of quality prompt engineering. And also, you need to always check its work. In other words, you would never ask it to do something that you can't assess the quality of what is produced, which should be simple enough. Except there's more to the story because there's a giant wrench that gets thrown into the works by a frustrating constant of the human experience, which is that, to quote Gary Vaynerchuk, marketers ruin everything. There is a subset of people who will use it the wrong way, the unethical way, the way of less integrity, and that creates a tragedy of the commons and leads to the spamification of information. And that applies to articles, to ebooks, and yes, also to many online courses. And it means that the value and price of information-only courses is about to go down pretty much to zero, and it leads to a massive erosion of trust, partially because we know that the quality of content coming from a robot just isn't the same. Partially because of the intentions of someone who takes the shortcut of publishing and putting their name on that content, and partially because there's just something about it we don't trust. But there is a very real opportunity for people who actually care about creating something real and meaningful and impactful, and yes, getting paid well for doing it. But this opportunity can only work for people who have legitimate expertise, which means that they have meaningful knowledge, discernment, and insight in their fields. Those people, like many of you, are perfectly positioned to create the only kind of course that will see its value and pricing power hold steady and even rise, which is the hybrid course, which combines different elements to create a transformative learning journey. So that's what we covered on Monday. And then on Wednesday, we did a deeper dive into what hybrid means, starting with the fact that it means premium, as in not cheap, as in an amount of money that would get you excited to be paid and that would require a considered commitment on the part of your students. And that does involve a choice because, as we discussed on Monday, not all courses will justify a premium. In fact, most courses are going in the opposite direction, leaving you trapped in that awful catch-22 cycle of not enough sales because I can't afford marketing, because not enough sales because I can't afford marketing, and so on and so forth. With the key to breaking out of that cycle being to create a course that delivers actual transformation by giving people insightful explanations for them to consume through audio or video or text or whatever, that leads to opportunities to apply what they've learned through theoretical exercises or practical work, and then get feedback on what they're doing right and how they need to improve. And we also talked about how to navigate the myriad decisions that this leads to with my proprietary hybrid design canvas tool that you can use to map out the different components of your course. We also talked about the power of effective prompt engineering, which is essentially about getting better answers by asking better questions. And of course, I also extended an invitation for you to join us inside the AI edition of our hybrid course university that includes 3 full programs: hybrid course launch, hybrid course audience, and hybrid course scale, plus 7 months of one-on-one coaching, plus a guaranteed minimum of $6,000 of course revenue that you will generate, with 2 really cool bonuses: the library of time-saving AI prompts and promotion to our audience of over 100,000 subscribers to our 2 Sigma newsletter. And the investment in this program is, well, it's for you to decide. It's a $500 activation fee and you choose the rest. It is pay what you can. And the response has been amazing. Many of you have already jumped in. To everyone who has, I want to say welcome. We're super excited to work with you over the next 7 months. And for everyone who is thinking about jumping in or wants more information, I'll tell you more about that later in this session. Right now, let's get into what we're here to actually talk about today, which is the playbook for marketing and selling courses in the age of AI. And as a foundation to that, because I know that there are people here who were not on Monday or Wednesday's session or both, and we're not releasing recordings. So what I do want to do is give you a few minutes to share in the chat your most valuable takeaways from the last 2 sessions. And we're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, by reflecting on and articulating what your best takeaway was, it solidifies the learning for you. And it also gives everyone who wasn't there, or maybe was there but missed it, the opportunity to grab that idea. So I'm going to give you a few minutes. Please share in the chat your most valuable takeaways from the last 2 sessions. All right, awesome. Thank you all for sharing. I love what I'm seeing in the chat. And everyone, whether they were here for the last two sessions or not, you should make a point of saving the chat at the end of this because there are so many great takeaways there already. There are going to be a lot more. Now, speaking of the chat, while we're at it, I should give you a little bit of guidance on how to use the chat during this training because we're going to use the chat a lot. I'm going to ask you to drop specific words to show that you're following and to share ideas during assignments. But what I'll also ask you all to do is please avoid crosstalk, avoid, can you please lower the volume or raise the volume or that sort of thing, and avoid side conversations because there are a lot of people on this call. There are about 1,000 people on this call right now, and it will become very distracting very fast. And when you're at home by yourself in front of your computer, it's easy to forget that every message you send is being broadcasted to 1,000 people. So let's all be disciplined about creating the learning environment that we all want. If that feels fair, drop the word deal into the chat so I know that you get it and you've got the chat working, and on we go. Okay, people get it. It is a deal. All right, so let's get into it, starting with what are realistic financial goals for your course business in the age of AI? And that starts with each and every one of you, because goals are for you to set and then work to achieve. But I can tell you that having now worked with thousands of course creators, when people come to me, they tend to have one of three goals to start. They either want to add an extra $2,000 per month in profit, or they want an extra $100,000 a year in profit, or they want to add $1 million in revenue. I don't know why, but these are the three kind of standard template goals. People will come to me with at least one of those. And each of these is achievable, but depending on where you're starting, it might take longer to make some of that happen. So out of these three options, just put into the chat, tell me, what is your goal right now? What is the goal that you're working towards and you would love to achieve it as your next milestone this year? And I'm seeing a lot of people want the 100K per year. Some people want an extra $5,000 or $10,000 a month, the $2,000 a month. A few people are working towards that million. Awesome, it's all good. Now, whichever of these targets you want to start with, this is where the business math of premium that we talked about on Wednesday really works in our favor. So let's do some calculations, keeping in mind that contribution profit is about 1/3 of your retail price. Given that, and assuming a course price that is premium, so between $500 and $5,000, that makes the contribution profit between $166 and $1,666. So let's be conservative, let's just say $333. And we'll also assume that 10 or 20% of the people who buy your course will want to upgrade to a more involved service with you for 5 to 10x the price, which is generally how the math works. So let's say you get an extra $10,000 from 1 out of 10 people. So based on that, if you want to earn $2,000 per month in profit, you need a grand total of 1.5 sales per month, which is 18 sales a year. If you want an extra $100,000 in profit, you need an extra, for that $100,000 in profit, you need 6.25 sales a month, which is 75 sales out of the year. If you want to make that $1 million in revenue, that's 41.6 sales a month, 500 sales a year. And the reason I share this math is I want you to see that these numbers are not so big. If looking at this number, this feels doable, put the word doable into the chat. If you're like, yeah, 18 sales a year, that, I can do that, right? 75 sales a year for $100,000. I can do the elbow grease. I can do it. Awesome. All right. So make sure you have your sales target, the number of sales you need per month and per year written down, because that's going to be your North Star, at least until you work out the more precise math for your specific situation, which of course we will help you to do inside of our programs. So now let's talk about how to do it. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is absolutely worthwhile, but that doesn't mean it will be easy. Especially the first time, it is probably going to be tough because of four obstacles that you're going to face to selling your courses. Three of these obstacles are universal, and one of them is new because of AI. So we'll talk about that one in a moment, but let's start with the universal stuff. The first challenge is that, as we all know, practice makes perfect, right? This is a familiar concept. We've all experienced it. The more we practice something, the better we are at it. But the first time you do anything, you haven't had any practice yet, right? You're going to set out to sell your new course for the first time. You will not have any practice because it's the first time. That means you are far from perfect. You are far from the skills that you're going to eventually have. And there's nothing you can do about that, but to be compassionate with yourself and accept that it won't be as easy the first time as it will be eventually. So put the word compassion into the chat if you are willing to show yourself that compassion. Say, you know what, it's going to be a little harder the first time, and that's okay. I can accept that. Awesome. Now, showing yourself that compassion is easier when you remember that learning curves are normal. So we're going to do a little exercise. I'm going to give you a few minutes, and I want you to make a list, share in the chat, make a list of all the things that you are good at now, but that you weren't good at the first time that you tried. Okay, make that list in the chat. All right, awesome. Thank you everyone for sharing, and thank you for reflecting on, yeah, there are a lot of things that you are good at now that you weren't good at first. And by the way, I also want to comment, I noticed someone in the chat saying, I don't like this exercise. I don't know if this is for me. That's totally fine. And I want everyone to just know we're at a capacity for this room. We're 1,000 people and there are people trying to get in and not able to. So if anyone is thinking, I don't know if this training is for me, please hop off and make room for people who definitely want to be here. So with that being said, you've made this list of things that you're good at now and weren't good at the first time. And it's important to recognize that everything follows that curve. And that's the first reason why selling your course is going to be hard. It's new and you just haven't had a lot of practice. And the second reason why it's going to be hard is that there is an inevitable credibility gap that you're going to have to overcome. And this has nothing to do with your experience or your expertise or your credentials or your track record or any of those things. It's simply a factor of the reality that if you go to someone, so you say, I've got this online course, do you want to sign up? The first two questions that will instinctively come to mind are going to be, well, who has gone through the course before? And what have their results been? And regardless of how good you are at what you do and how much of an expert you are, if this is a brand new course, the only answers that you can give are, well, nobody has gone through it before. The results have been nothing because it's brand new. And again, that has nothing to do with your level of expertise or experience. It's just a matter of this being new. And there's another challenge with selling in general, which is the challenge of context. And we talked about this a little bit earlier in different places in the last few days of the boot camp. But in your mind, everything is clear, right? People say, what do you teach? You say, this is what my course is about, all clear. But in your prospect's mind, you're coming out of left field. And that is never a recipe for success. You always want people to know that an offer is coming before you make it. And there's a really powerful strategy for addressing a lot of these challenges. I'm going to teach it to you in a minute. But first, let's touch on the fourth challenge with selling your courses that AI has added to the mix. And that is the spamification of information that we talked about that really has led to a lot of low quality courses everywhere. The market is already starting to flood with mediocre information-only courses, which is applying a lot of downward pressure on the prices of those courses and the market's willingness to buy. Now, you might say, wait a minute, Danny, I thought you said we don't have to worry about that because you're teaching us how to create hybrid courses that actually deliver transformation and that's worth a premium. And that's all true, as long as people know that your course is different from all those other lousy ones. Right? If they don't know, it doesn't matter how good it is on the inside. But I've got you covered, and we'll talk about how to make sure they do know that. But you're going to have to be diligent about it, because if you're not, then it will be an obstacle. That's the bad news. But the good news is that there is a way to not just overcome a lot of these challenges that I've shared, but also to use them to your advantage. This is actually one of my favorite strategies because it's basically like marketing jujitsu that turns an apparent disadvantage, like being smaller and weaker than your opponent, and turns it into a big advantage. And what I'm talking about is seeding demand with a narrative of co-creation. And this is the strategy that has driven probably more sales than any other single thing that I've done and taught. And it is based on some pretty interesting research coming out of Harvard, Yale, and Duke universities. What they did is they had a whole bunch of people come in, the participants, and assemble a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that they were assembling was IKEA furniture. And that's why what they discovered eventually came to be called the IKEA effect. But what they did is they had two groups who were asked to put a price tag on the object that was built. First was the builders. People would come in, they would build the IKEA furniture, they would put a price tag on it. Then they were taken out of the room, and a whole new group of people came in that had nothing to do with this stuff, and they were asked to put a price tag on this as well. These were the evaluators. So what was the finding of this research? Well, what they found is that people were willing to pay more for the pieces that they built themselves. They did a version of this research. I found this fascinating, where they had people come in and they're building this IKEA furniture, and they're normal people like me, like you. We've all, I think, put the word IKEA into the chat if you've ever built IKEA furniture. Right? I think it's kind of like a rite of passage we all go through. So, if you're anything like me, you have IKEA furniture in your house, you built it up, it's all good. And, you did a good job, but it's not perfect, right? This piece is screwed in a little too tight. That piece is a tiny bit crooked, etc. That's how it was for the builders. But then they put the price tag in there, they took them out, and then they had other people come and build the IKEA furniture, and these were professional IKEA builders. It's their job to build IKEA furniture. When they do it, it's always perfect. And so they asked the people to put price tags on all this stuff, and they found that people were willing to spend more money for the imperfect pieces they built themselves than for the perfect pieces that somebody else built. Because when we are involved in creating something, we value it more. I'm going to say to everyone who's like chatting again and again about the transcripts, please stop doing that. It's distracting to everyone. If we keep saying that, we're going to have to remove you from the session. People were willing to spend more on the imperfect pieces that they built themselves. This is called, the technical term is the endowment effect. So our goal is to leverage the IKEA effect by engaging your students as co-creators of your hybrid course. And this turns the lack of a proven track record from a bug to a feature. And what it also does is seed demand, right? When you have those initial conversations, figuring out what people want and what their interests are, their need comes front and center in their awareness. And they also know that you are actively working on the problem. Now, I want to address for a moment the question of market research and how it all fits into this. And the answer is that you get those market research insights through the seeding process. But I don't want you to think of it as market research, because that evokes the image of slowly taking your time, poring over data and spreadsheets. But a core part of what we're doing with the seeding process is creating that context of awareness about your offer. And that context doesn't last forever, right? And today it lasts a lot less time than it used to. There's a ton of data out there showing that our ability to pay attention to things over time is declining. And stats about attention spans are usually oversimplified. They're usually misleading. If you want a more detailed account, a great book about this is Stolen Focus by Johann Hari. It's a great book. But in the absence of having read the book, just take my word for it, our attention spans are declining. Our ability to pay attention is shrinking. And this is a trend that AI is accelerating because it contributes to the flooding of information coming at us all the time. And the upshot of all that is that you have to do the seeding quickly. If it takes months, then by the time you circle back around, the context is gone. They've forgotten who you are, and you're back at square one. So put the word quickly into the chat. If you understand, this has to happen quickly. It has to happen like a sprint where you do all the seeding, you gather your feedback, you come back, you say, hey, I've got something for you. Amazing. Okay, you guys get it. And by the way, this is exactly what Happy Leopold did, moving fast from market seeding to a pilot. And that took him literally from a few tens of thousands of dollars in his first pilot to 7 figures in his 3rd year. So let's talk about how you can do the same thing. There are 4 strategies that I teach for seeding the market with desire, with demand, and then selling your pilot course. The first is the pre-sale email campaign. The second is enlisting partner support. The third is free coaching calls. And the fourth is personal network outreach. Now, why am I teaching you 4 strategies instead of just one, right? Why don't I just teach you the one strategy that everyone should do? The answer is that there are 1,000 people on this call right now. You all have different contexts, different situations, different strengths, different resources. I don't have one strategy that will work for all 1,000 of you. But I can say with confidence that between these 4 strategies, almost everyone on this call will have one that works for you. So I will teach you all 4, and I promise at least one of them will be a fit for you and your situation. But here's the deal. I want you to promise me you're not going to listen for 2 minutes and be like, oh, I think this one's not for me, and then tune out and go play Candy Crush. You've got to pay full attention to all 4, because the better you understand each of them, the more it'll help you understand the rest. They all work on the same underlying logic. So if that feels fair, put the word deal into the chat. I promise at least one will work. You promise to pay attention to all 4. Awesome, we have a deal. Okay, so I'm going to share all 4 with you. I'll teach you exactly how they work. And before we jump into the specifics, I do want to make one comment about selling courses into companies, B2B. I often get asked, what's the difference, right? I'm selling B2B, how is it different? And the short answer is that yes, there are some differences, but they're not as big as you might think. So yes, the strategies I'm going to share do need to be modified a bit to work in B2B. We teach about that inside the Hybrid Course University, but fundamentally, the strategies I'm going to share right now, they all work in that setting as well. So let's jump in, starting with the pre-sale email campaign. And basically, this is the archetypal strategy for launching a pilot program to your audience. So here are the steps. First, you float the idea to see if people are interested. You say, hey guys, I'm thinking about creating a course on this topic. Might you be interested in that? Then, presuming they say, yeah, we're interested, you send a second message. You say, all right, I want some specific input as to what to include, right? If I do this course, what's one thing you definitely want me to cover? Then you announce you're going to do it. I've reviewed all the survey results. People are interested. I'm going to do this. You give them a sneak preview of what's coming. You start enrolling students so they can sign up, they can pay you. You then answer questions, you reinforce benefits. And finally, you say it's the last chance to sign up because the class starts tomorrow. Now, I hope you're recognizing here that there's a logical progression. So you only go through these steps if people are legitimately interested. If you float the idea, you say, hey, I wonder who's interested in this, and the answer is nobody. Don't just blindly continue through the steps. Take the feedback and adjust your plans accordingly. And an important key is that you should be dropping hints about what your program is going to look like, especially the hybrid elements, so they don't dismiss it out of hand as just another information-only course, like the kind that ChatGPT can create. So let's see what a campaign like this would actually look like on a calendar. So here's what could be a real calendar for a real month. Let's say you're going to skip the first week. That's when you're creating all your marketing emails. So on the second Tuesday of the month, you float the idea. You send an email, you say, hey guys, I'm thinking about creating this thing. You wait a few days, and on Friday, you say, people seem interested. Here's a survey. Please answer these questions. Let me know what you want. Then on Monday, you say, I've reviewed all the responses on the weekend. It's looking good. I'm going to do it. 2 days later, you say, here's a sneak preview. Here's what I'm going to include in the course. And 2 days later, you say, all right, guys, the doors are open. You can sign up. Pay right here, reserve your spot. The next day, you answer their frequently asked questions, wait a couple of days, reinforce the benefits. And then on Tuesday, you say, hey, guys, it's the last chance to sign up because the first day of class is tomorrow. And you can adjust the dates a little bit, but with some variation, this is basically every pre-launch campaign you've ever seen. And if copywriting isn't your strength, AI can help you write these emails, just as long as you give it really specific instructions. You tell it what you want the email to be about and what you want the call to action to be. And sorry, am I still, can you guys hear me? I think I got muted by accident. Can I get a thumbs up? You can hear me. Okay. So you tell ChatGPT what you want the email to be about, what you want the call to action to be, what tone you want for the voice, etc. Right? You just give all those details. You go back to the idea we talked about on Wednesday of giving the AI hyper-specific instructions. So let's actually practice that. I'm going to give you a few minutes to write a prompt, put your prompt into the chat, and just share what is a prompt that could get ChatGPT to write an email in a marketing sequence like the one we just outlined. All right, awesome. Great suggestions in the chat. So we've got our first strategy, the pre-sale email campaign. Now, obviously, as several of you have pointed out in the chat, this strategy requires a few thousand email subscribers at the very least. So what if you don't have them? Well, then you just move on to strategy number 2, which is enlisting partner support. And the idea here is that if you don't have an audience, you can leverage somebody else's audience. And the first step towards doing that is a warm relationship with an influencer. And always when I say that, people are like, well, I don't have any warm relationships with influencers. And so I have to define what we're talking about. When I say a warm relationship, I don't mean that, you grew up across the street from them and you barbecued every weekend in the summer every year as kids together and all that kind of stuff. All I mean is that you've had some interaction with them and it was positive, right? So that when they see your name, they will recognize it and the association will be positive. So it could be that you've interacted with them by email or on Facebook or on Twitter or in a comment on their blog or at a networking event, or you bought one of their programs and you implemented it and got a result, or you interviewed them on a podcast. All of that qualifies. And usually when I give people that kind of criteria and they think about it for a bit, they're like, oh yeah, actually, I'm connected to quite a few influencers in my industry. So now let me tell you how to reach out and approach them. You're going to start with a line like this. And there's no subject line, by the way, because you're going to reply to whatever your last interaction with them was. Say, thanks again for, and fill in the blank, remind them why they like you, essentially. You say, I'm writing because I'm gearing up to try something new that I think your audience would really appreciate. It's a new course that I'm planning about, and here you put in your instant credibility formula, which is something that we teach you how to put together inside the Hybrid Course University, but it's essentially a 1 or 2 line overview of what you're doing. And you say, I've already had great responses from people about the idea, which presumably you have, and I'm looking for a small number of pilot students to try it out, either at a significant discount with special level of support, whatever the case may be. And you say, with your permission and blessing, I'd love to give your community first dibs on these spots. What do you think? Would this interest you at all? And if you have a reasonably warm relationship and they have a reasonably sized audience, this should not be so hard. And all you're really asking them to do is send 1 or 2 emails. And it actually simplifies this marketing campaign we mapped out earlier. You kind of get to cross off the whole first half of it. They're going to send an email straight to the place where they can buy it, except they go to a landing page. People can opt in to get the details so you can follow up with them later. And then after that, they get to the sales page. Maybe you'll push your frequently asked questions email by a day or so, and then you go straight to the rest of the offer presentation. So any number of influencers could mail to this. And by the way, those of you who have already joined us inside the Hybrid Course University, or those of you who are planning to do it by the early bird deadline to claim the bonus of promotion to the 100,000 plus subscribers on the 2 Sigma newsletter, well, you could use that promotion to feed into a strategy like this one. So that's our second strategy. Now let's move on to the third one, which is the free coaching calls strategy. And the idea here is that you use free coaching calls to build interest and lead to your pilot. No big audience needed. And because you're doing this with free coaching calls, this is also a really good strategy to jumpstart coaching business. Now, this strategy was implemented masterfully by my friend Lou Dallow. And there's a detailed case study of exactly what he did inside of our programs. But let me share with you the results at a high level. So on a timeline, for the first 2 months, while the first 2 months were going on, he generated $37,500 in coaching revenues. Then at the 2-month mark, he generated $30,000 launching his pilot course and making sales. Then he buckled down, he delivered a great pilot, he learned from it, he got ready to launch his full course. At the 9-month mark, he launched the full course, made $100,000 in course sales and $250,000 in coaching revenues. And that was followed, of course, by a lot more in the lifetime value of the customer. Now, I want to be clear. Your mileage not just may vary, it will vary. This was a masterfully successful implementation. Your results will not be as good. But even if you just do a fraction of this, even if you just get 10%, wouldn't that be amazing? Put 10% into the chat if you would be thrilled with just 10% of Lou's results your first time out of the gate. Yeah, that's what I typically see. People are like, yeah, 10%, I would be very happy. And here's the thing, Lou's result is exceptional, but it's not actually that unusual when you consider the entire life cycle of online courses. And in case you're wondering, Lou only had about 350 active subscribers when he did this. So if you have a few hundred people on your email list or a few hundred connections on LinkedIn, you can totally do this. So let's talk about how. We're going to go through the steps one by one. And it all starts with the gift of free coaching calls. And you've really got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work. Lou did about 150 of these calls in 3 weeks. And AI can help you do it even more effectively because you can point it to things like your prospect's LinkedIn and social profiles and ask it to write you a summary of key things to be aware of, right? The trick is just to have really good prompts that will give the AI the instructions that will return a really useful summary for you. And doing this will do a couple things. It'll give you a real in-depth sense of what people want to pay to learn from you. And it will engage with your best prospects so they listen when you offer the pilot. Now, let's be real for a moment, right? Most of the people who are attracted to my work, they have a work ethic. Put the word work ethic into the chat. If you're like, I'm willing to roll up my sleeves, I'm willing to do the work, I have a work ethic. If that's what it takes, I will do it. Awesome. I see a lot of people with a work ethic. You're willing to roll up your sleeves. And yeah, doing 150 calls in 3 weeks, it'll be tiring, it'll be tedious, but if you've got some work ethic, some elbow grease, totally doable. The hard part isn't doing 150 calls. It's getting 150 people to agree to get on a call with you in the first place. That's the hard part. So let's talk about how to do that. Here's a template for the outreach. And I'm going to give this to you. It can be, you can reach out to people by email, text message, social media, whatever. But here's the gist of the messaging. You're going to say, I want to give back and better understand what people are struggling with the most. Can I offer you a free 20-minute laser coaching call about fill in the blank, the outcome that you're promising? And I promise not to try to sell you anything on the call. Now, there is a key to making this work, to making this really effective, and it is in the outcome that you're promising. It's got to be super compelling. It's also got to be specific and focused, so not general or vague. It's got to be believable for the 20-minute time frame. And it's got to be something they feel is personalized. So they don't say, just send me the information. They have to feel like they actually have to talk to you and you're going to give them something personalized. And this is another one of those things that can be really hard to do, A, because there's really an art to it, and B, because you're so close to it. This is something that my coaches work very closely with our students in order to make sure they're doing right, because executing this properly is the whole difference between success and just not so successful. But in the absence of a qualified coach, AI can be a really good brainstorming partner. So here's a really simple version of what a prompt might look like. You might say something like, I'm an expert in X. What could I help someone figure out in 20 minutes? But that is a very simple prompt. We can make it a whole lot better. So I'm going to give you a few minutes. I want you to think about how would you improve that prompt? How would you give the AI better instructions to better help you come up with a compelling outcome that you can promise to people? I'm going to give you a few minutes to explore that right now. Right. Awesome. So remember, the point of doing this is that you want something compelling enough that people will want to get on a call with you. And doing this accomplishes two things. First, you will learn what your market is looking for, and this will set you up to launch your pilot course. And this is an area where it is really powerful to leverage AI for two reasons. First, you are quickly going to find yourself drowning in your market research data. Let's say, for example, that you conduct just 60 market research interviews and you're very disciplined. They really stick to 20 minutes each. They don't run over. Well, human speech averages about 100 to 200 words per minute. So you're going to be looking at a total of between 120 and 240,000 words, right? That's the same as 3 to 6 nonfiction books. That's a ton of work to review, never mind to carefully parse for insights. But that's the sort of thing that ChatGPT is great at. And you don't have the garbage in, garbage out problem that you would have if you ask ChatGPT a question in general, because it wouldn't be answering based on the entire internet. It would only be answering based on the data that you are telling it to review. And you know that is quality data. Now, there's just one little problem with that, which is the little message box that you drop your prompts into. How are you going to fit hundreds of thousands of words in there? Now, there are different ways that you can approach this. You can do it by accessing enterprise level versions of ChatGPT, like their GPT Playground, or by writing code that calls their API. But there's also a hack to getting around all that, which is to just put all of your research into a publicly accessible Google Doc. Then your prompt can read something like this. Read the document at this URL, and then tell me whatever it is you wanted to tell me. And by doing this, you will learn a lot about what your market wants from your course and also more broadly. Now, since we're talking about using AI for market research, there's another powerful prompt engineering approach that I want to share with you, which is role definition. Because remember, the AI is looking for the statistically most likely right answer. And what you're doing with careful prompt engineering is refining the parameters of what that answer should look like. And a powerful way to do that is by telling ChatGPT what role it should be playing. So for example, you might start your prompt by telling it, you are a market research, or you are a heart-centered entrepreneur, or you are a stressed out professional, or you are a buyer of fill in the blank. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool into the chat if you're like, that is really cool that you can tell it to do that, and it will. Awesome. So let's stretch our imaginations a little bit. I'm going to give you a few minutes, and I want you to think about and share in the chat, what are some roles that you can ask ChatGPT to act as part of your prompts? All right, awesome. Great ideas in the chat. Now, before we move on from the topic of AI, there's one more thing that I want to cover, and that is the human dimension. Because while the technology is advancing at breakneck speed, our programming is the same as it's been for thousands of years, and our brains just aren't wired to know what artificial intelligence is. And that's why we anthropomorphize. Our instinct is to explain our thinking. We say please and thank you to Alexa. And this may seem like a silly artifact of the reality that we just aren't used to ChatGPT or to AI yet, but that's not actually what it is. What it actually comes down to is that we have to make a conscious decision about how we want to keep interacting with others. If you are curt and callous with AI, you're going to find that you are acting that way with the people in your life as well. So my advice is to take a page from J.M. Barrie's book, The Little White Bird, and always be a little kinder than necessary. The AI does not care, but you should. These tools are powerful, so use them, but don't let them disconnect you from your own humanity. Put the word kind into the chat if you get it. If you're like, this is not about the AI and making the AI feel good. This is about how you want to train yourself to treat other people. Okay, beautiful. Now, getting back to our seeding strategy of free coaching calls, it will help you learn what your market is looking for. But as a bonus, you will also find that you end up selling more coaching services. Now, you might be thinking, some of you might be like, wait a minute, Danny, wait, didn't I say I was going to promise not to sell anything? And the answer is yes, you did. But if you do a good job on that 20-minute call, some of them are going to ask, they're going to say, how else can you help me? So you just say, well, I promised not to sell you anything on this call, and I want to honor that, but we can set up another call to discuss. That's all it takes. That's how Lou generated $37,500 in coaching revenues before he even launched his pilot. Then after the calls, you will be ready and eager to present your course because they will be ready and eager to hear from you. So that's when you offer your pilot. And that's how Lou made $30,000 selling his course to all these people who were eager and waiting to hear from him. Then you deliver your pilot, gather feedback, and launch your full-scale course offer. And that's what leads to all the launch revenues and everything that follows. So that's the third strategy. Finally, we've got one more, which is the fourth strategy. It is personal network outreach. And the idea here is to just keep it really simple and reach out to your contacts to see if they're interested in your pilot. And it's important to have this strategy in your back pocket because even if you don't have a list in air quotes or audience, you're still connected to people who could be interested through your phone and email contacts, through Facebook and LinkedIn connections, through social groups and clubs, through professional associations. Now, you can and should reach out to them, and it's pretty easy to do. But I'm going to do a little bit of preemptive mind reading. I know there's some people on this call right now who are thinking, but Danny, I don't want to call everyone that I know to sell them something. That feels super icky. Put the word icky into the chat. If you're like, yeah, that feels super, super icky. I don't want to call everyone I know to try to sell them something. So here's my response to that. I would say that, yeah, it is really icky. I don't want you to do that at all. People are all going to think you joined some MLM scheme. Do not do that. The only people I want you to call are the people who might legitimately want what you're offering based on what you know about them. And just present the idea, right? Just say, hey, I'm thinking about creating a course about this topic. What do you think? Is that something you might be interested in? That's all, right? That's all you've got to say. And they can say one of two things. They can't say, yes, I'm interested, right? You've told them like two sentences. You haven't told them enough to say yes. But they could say no. They could say, I'm not interested. So you say, okay, no problem. Can you tell me why not? And you make it clear. You're not trying to convince them, right? I just want the feedback because I'm thinking about doing this. And if it's not a good idea, then, I'd rather know that now. So they could say no and you get some feedback, or they could say maybe, I don't know for sure, but maybe tell me more. And so if they've asked you to tell them more, then you do. You tell them what the course is going to cover and what the outcomes are going to be and how long it's going to run and how many people you're going to let in, what it's going to cost eventually and what the pilot's going to cost now and all that kind of stuff. And then you say, now that you know all this, do you want a spot? And they could say no, in which case you ask for feedback. They could say yes, in which case you say, that's fantastic, and you take their payment. Or they could say some version of maybe, I don't know, I need to think about it, I need to talk to my spouse. You say, no problem, can you give me an answer by Monday? And that leads to a yes or a no. And this is it, right? And you'll have to make a couple dozen calls, but they're easy and low-key calls. And if you're onto a good idea, this approach alone is enough to fill your pilot in just a couple of weeks. So we've gone over 4 strategies for seeding. There's the pre-sale email campaign, there is enlisting partner support, there is free coaching calls, and there's personal network outreach. Now, I want to ask all of you, drop into the chat, let me know which of these strategies feels like the best fit for you. I'm going to take a sip of my drink while you're typing. Which of these feels like the best fit for you? So I'm seeing it kind of runs the gamut, 1, 3, 4, 2, but 3 is the favorite, which is usually the case when I teach this. 3 is always very popular. Awesome. But again, the reason I share all 4 of them is that at least one should be a fit for everyone here. Now, there's a lot that is great about launching your pilot course in this way. You will validate market demand, you'll get paid to develop your course, but the biggest long-term benefit is that the next time when you go to launch your course and people ask you, well, who has gone through the course and what have their results been? You can respond with, well, check out all our successful customers. And it's really powerful to be able to share success stories. Like, I'm sure some of you who are thinking about joining the Hybrid Course University would be interested to know about my past students. Like, maybe you're in a kind of esoteric field. You might be interested to know about Chris Arning. Chris is a semiotics consultant and community leader in the semiotics field. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and their interpretation. So the character from the Da Vinci Code, who's a professor of symbology, he would have been a semiotics professional. So Chris works with media companies to help them with their semiotics messaging. He came to us, and with his first pilot and then his first launch, he brought in $30,000 in course revenues. I might tell you about Corey Melanson. She describes herself as a process facilitator. She's also an instructional designer and curriculum developer. Between her first pilot and her first launch, she brought in $16,000, and then she started running courses again and again, and it led to $175,000 in course revenues in her first year. I might tell you about Deborah Cady. She created a certification program for supportive adult allies of youth and young adults with mental health challenges. In her first year, she launched 2 pilot courses, followed by 2 full launches. In aggregate, she made $145,000. And for all of these people, the pilot was just the first step on the way to a much larger hybrid course empire. Now, there is one question that might come up as you go about selling your premium hybrid course, which is, because it's a premium course, premium price, how do you handle price resistance? Right? This is a huge challenge for a lot of course creators, especially when they're not yet super comfortable with selling. But the good news is that if you know how to handle it, it's really no big deal. And I'm going to teach you how to handle it. I'm going to come back to that right before we get to the Q&A. But before we do that, for right now, it is time for another one of those off-ramps that I promised you on Monday. And since this is our last session in the bootcamp, this is the last off-ramp. This is where you decide either, all right, I'm doing this. I'm going the hybrid route. I'm using AI. Put the word hybrid into the chat if you're like, I'm in, I'm doing this, I'm launching my hybrid course, I'm using AI, I'm creating a product that's going to make a difference for other people, it's going to change the direction of my business. And if the answer is no, the answer is no. That's totally fine too. But for everyone who is like, yes, okay, I am in, I am doing this, there are 2 things that I will invite you to do. First, get the slides of today's session. And you can do that by submitting your homework, which is to answer the question, which seeding strategy feels like the best fit for your business and situation? Send that to support@mirasee.com with the subject line AI Courses Day 3 Homework, and my team will get you the slides. So that's the first thing to do. But of course, the slides will only take you so far. And what I really hope is that you will get super serious about the strategy that is right for you, because this is where the path to making those financial goals a reality starts. And there is the question around how long does it all take, not just to launch your first course, but to achieve all these goals. And the answer is that it depends. I've seen people go from 0 to that $1 million mark in as little as 3 or 4 years. And I've also seen it take a lot longer. And there are a few things that make the difference, but a lot of it comes down to discipline. consistently choosing what they want over what they feel like, which means putting in the time, doing the work, and stepping out of their comfort zones. And it's not just about working hard. It's also about getting the training and coaching and direction that you need to make sure you're taking the shortest possible path to your goals, which is what any good course is about. It's about giving you a shortcut to get you to where you want to go in less time, at less cost, and with less risk of failure. And I can give you that shortcut. And I know this shortcut works because it has worked for so many of my students. And it worked for me too. Hybrid courses have been the engine of my success. We've gone from 0 to over 8 figures in annual revenue. We do it with a global team of about 120 people. And none of all this would have been possible without this process that I'm teaching you and that I will teach you in detail through our programs that has been fundamental to our success and the success of literally thousands of course creators that we've trained. And sure, we make good money and that's nice, but it's not just about the money. It's about freedom. It's about impact. It's about doing the things that matter to you. Like the fact that when there is a cause that I believe in, I can really get behind it. Some of you are familiar with Pencils of Promise. This is a charity that we support that builds schools and provides teacher training to create better opportunities for kids around the world. Over the years, we've raised close to $100,000 to support this cause. That's impact, right? Or my children's book. It's called The World Works Better, and it codifies for my kids some of the messages that I think are worth remembering and living by. I was able to write and publish it because of the business that we've built, driven by the processes that I've been teaching you. That's impact. And impact isn't just about the world at large. It's also about the world that matters most to you. And for me, it's my wife, Bhumi, and my kids, Priya and Micah. Everything that I do is built around creating the freedom to be present with them. And while I've done a lot of flashy things that some people might call impressive, the most meaningful part of it to me is that I'm done work every day at 4 o'clock to be with my kids. And that I have the freedom and the resources to take them each on a one-on-one father-daughter or father-son trip each year for their birthday. This is me and Micah at the CN Tower in Toronto, where he wants to go for his 6th birthday. This is me and Priya having a very jet-lagged early breakfast at the Wynn Hotel in Vegas just a couple of months ago, celebrating her turning 8. And that time together is worth more than all the business accomplishments in the world. And that's the beauty of this approach to online courses and online business. It allows you to create more impact for the world and for the people closest to you. And it creates the leverage and freedom you need for the moments that really matter. Now, you've already decided not to take the off-ramp. So if you do want a hybrid online course as an engine for transformation in your business, it is time to make that commitment. And the commitment is to do what it will really take to pursue that path and make it real. And you can try to do it on your own, or you can do it with our help through the Hybrid Course University, which is our flagship program that really helps people capitalize on this new world of opportunity with hybrid courses through AI. And it actually consists of 3 full courses. Hybrid Course Launch that takes you from 0 to launching and profiting from your first hybrid course in a matter of months. Hybrid Course Audience that is about growing the audience and following that will want to buy everything that you're putting together. And Hybrid Course Scale, about scaling it and growing it up. And a lot of people are very excited about this program, but what they're even more excited about is the fact that instead of charging $2,000 for Hybrid Course Launch and another $2,000 for Hybrid Course Audience and another $2,000 for Hybrid Course Scale, plus who knows what we could charge for the AI library that drives it and makes it all so much easier, right? Instead of all that, we're cutting the price dramatically. We're doing something very special that we've only done once before and may never do again. We're offering the entire Hybrid Course University on a pay-what-you-can basis. You just put down a $500 activation fee now so that I know you're actually committed, and then you will make the decision about what you can pay for this program after you've already begun to experience it. Now, the response since I announced this on Monday has been phenomenal. And I know that, especially if you're hearing about this for the first time, you probably have a lot of questions. I mean, how does that work? What's the catch? Danny, aren't you afraid that people will take advantage of you or won't pay? And my team had the same questions when I first had the idea to try this. So Let me tell you what I told them, starting with that there is no catch. I want to be very clear about that. There's no minimum amount for you to choose. You just put down the $500 activation fee, and then you get started with full access to the program, the lessons, the exercises, the coaching, and all the rest. Then after 2 weeks in the program, you will be asked what you choose to pay, divided into 6 monthly installments. And I guess there is a minimum in that you have to choose at least $10 for each of those 6 payments, because any less than that, the credit card companies start thinking it looks like a fraud payment. But you'll make the decision about what you can pay, and that will be it. Nothing further will be owed, and regardless of what you choose, you will still get full access to the entire program. And we're doing it this way because there are 2 things that I believe to be true. First of all, that sometimes we need something, desperately in some cases, that we're just not in a position to be able to afford. I've certainly had that experience, and I probably wouldn't be where I am today if not for the generosity and grace of people who really didn't have to extend a helping hand in the way that they did. And I don't think I'm unique in this regard. It's actually very common in the entrepreneurial world. At different points in our careers, many of us find ourselves stuck in these catch-22 cycles of needing help in order to grow, but not being able to afford that help until after you grow. I want to break that cycle and make it as accessible as I can for everyone who has a gift to teach that gift to others, both for their own benefit and for the benefit of everyone that they serve. We need this. The world needs this. That's the first thing that I believe to be true. And the second thing is that I truly believe that the vast majority of people are honest, decent, and are driven to do the right thing. So while I fully expect that some people will pay the least that is possible because that's all that they can afford, and I'm 100% okay with that, I also trust that people who can pay more will pay more, commensurate with their means and the value of what we offer. And that's why I'm not hedging my bets with this offer even a little bit. Some people advised me that I should only do pay what you can for the training content, but take other parts out of the program, like the coaching. But I'm not going to do any of that. Regardless of what you decide that you can pay, you get access to the entire AI edition of the Hybrid Course University experience. Now, I want to tell you a bit more about what the program actually covers. As I mentioned, there are 3 full courses that you'll go through. The first is Hybrid Course Launch. In that program, you will choose the right market for you. You will select an irresistible course topic. You will find your ideal premium students. You'll make it easy for them to say yes. You'll design a powerful course experience, set up all your course technology, and fill your pilot with paying students. Then you'll move on to Hybrid Course Audience, where you will set up lead magnets and pages to attract your target student. You'll develop a steady, consistent plan for content that plays to your strengths. You will build authority and trust through automated nurture. You'll connect with high-profile JV partners, and you'll implement systems to get it all done consistently and efficiently. And then you'll move on to Hybrid Course Scale, where you will record professional-grade videos. You will free your time with high-leverage hybrid support structures. You will expand into the best-for-you marketing channels, like paid ads and podcast guesting and more. And you'll create evergreen systems for consistent, sustainable growth. So you get all 3 of these courses. It is full-scale top-flight training. You progress with the community or you go at your own pace, and you get one-on-one support from your personal course building and marketing coach. Now, let's talk a bit more about the support that you'll get through the program, because there's a lot of it. First, we'll talk about the group support. You get weekly training calls, you get weekly office hours, you can hop on and ask a question, and there's a community Slack so you can connect with your peers and ask them questions. And you also get one-on-one coaching through email or Slack to ask your questions. Through homework review, you submit your assignments and you get feedback on every single assignment. And you hop on one-on-one milestone calls at key points in the program. Now, there's another dimension to the training, which is that it will show you how to use AI the right way across all the steps, from coming up with topics and angles for your course, to gathering and synthesizing public market insights, to analyzing market research data that you've assembled, to drafting marketing assets like sales pages and videos and emails, to enhancing your offer with time-saving AI shortcuts, to iterating learning materials to improve student experiences, to drafting and developing assignments and worksheets, and extracting and deploying customer feedback and testimonials. And to help you with all of that, the program includes a library of ChatGPT prompts to help you with every area of building your hybrid course business. Niche selection, market research, outreach messaging, program outlining, lesson planning, drafting content, planning homework, templating support, sales copy planning. There are over 300 prompts in this library. Thanks to the integration of AI, it has literally never been easier to follow the steps that we teach and finally build the hybrid course business that will create the leverage, freedom, and impact that you want. And the whole program is designed to help you create that leverage, freedom, and impact that you know you need to see from your business. And this isn't just empty talk. We actually guarantee results in this program. If you stick with the program, you do the work, and you reach out to your coach when you need help, then I guarantee that you will earn at least $6,000 from your hybrid online course by the time the program is done. And if you don't, I will refund your $500 activation fee and whatever amount you decided that you can pay. Let me repeat that. If you don't make $6,000 by the end of the program, I will refund your $500 activation fee and whatever amount you decided that you can pay. And if you're doing some quick math in your head and you're thinking, Danny, that means I could pay as little as $560 and you'll still guarantee I'll earn $6,000. Can that be right? And the answer is yes, that's exactly right. This is by far the best offer that I've ever presented, or frankly, that I've even seen. And I'm very excited about it. But I'm also very aware that this is absolutely a giant experiment. We've done this once before and it went well, but I know there's still a lot that might not work out. So I know that I'm taking a risk here. My sincere belief and hope is that everyone will rise to the occasion and that we will be able to offer a program in this way again in the future. But the truth is that there's a very real possibility that we won't. Now, there's one more thing for me to tell you about. The doors officially open on Monday, and they'll only be open for a few days. But since you're here with me this week, you can jump the line, get in early, and also get a special early bird bonus. And that early bird bonus is about attracting paying students to your online course. Because even though we teach you exactly how to do it, that is still the part that tends to give the people we work with the most concern. So we're doing something very special. Now, you should know that over the last several years, my company, Miracy, has acquired a number of businesses in our industry. So the Coaches Console and Connect 365 and Rizuku and Superhuman Academy, these are all part of Miracy. And we teamed up to create some really cool collaborative projects, including our 2 Sigma newsletter that goes out to over 100,000 coaches, consultants, and expertise-based entrepreneurs several times a week. Well, here's the early bird bonus. When you are ready to launch, we will tell all 100,000 plus of our subscribers about your course. So this is instant exposure. But if you want to get that bonus, you have to join us by Sunday at the absolute latest. That is the deadline to claim the early bird bonus. And the link to do that, to sign up, is mrse.co/HCU. I want you to see the same results as Chris Arning, who launched his first pilot, made $5,000, and launched his course and made another $25,000. As Corey Melanson, who grew to $175,000 in her first year. As Deborah Cady, who did 2 pilots and 2 launches in her first year, adding up to $145,000. Like Happy Leopold, who grew to 7 figures in his 3rd year. I want you to create real financial leverage in your business so you can spend less of your time earning more money in a way that actually leads to freedom in your business and life. And with that freedom and leverage, the ability to create a lot of impact in your immediate circle of the world and maybe in the world as a whole. Like Lisa Bloom, who teaches people how to leverage the power of story to make more sales. Like Patty Block, who is a business coach and works with women-owned businesses to help them position their pricing for growth. She made $15,000 with her first 2 pilots and now sells courses for thousands of dollars. Like Diane Southard, who is a microbiologist and author who teaches people how to make sense of their DNA testing. She went from 0 to $250,000 in revenues in her first year. Like Linda Claire Puig, whose program Your Audience, Your Way experiments with really innovative stuff around implementation. Like Jill Cruz, who is a board-certified nutritionist who helps women over 40 lose weight enjoyably and sustainably. Her 6-month course costs thousands of dollars in an industry that is just drowning in free information. Like Ian Roberts, who teaches people how to draw and how to do composition in their drawing and generates high 6 figures of revenue with his course. Like Mark Morley Fletcher, who is a jazz guitarist who's been performing for over 30 years and teaches the psychology of performance to amateur musicians. And through a hybrid approach, generates hundreds of thousands of dollars with his courses. Like Susan O'Connor, who teaches people how to write for the video game industry and went from $10,000 in 2020 with her first pilot to now multiple 6 figures every year. Like Molly Mahoney, who teaches entrepreneurs to show up and go live. When she came to me, she was trying to sell her first course for $50. Now she charges $5,000 for it, and it powers a 7-figure business. And we do all of this through one big enrollment and into our flagship program once per year. And that's what we're doing right now. And I'd love for you to join us inside the AI edition of our hybrid course university. You get 3 full courses: hybrid course launch, hybrid course audience, and hybrid course scale. You get 7 months of one-on-one coaching. You are guaranteed a minimum of $6,000 of course revenues. You get the bonus library of time-saving AI prompts. You get the bonus promotion to over 100,000 subscribers as an early bird who joins by Sunday at midnight. And the price for all of that is for you to decide. You get to decide what you can pay. So please take advantage, jump in, tell your friends, seize this opportunity to get $6,000 of guaranteed results for just $500 plus whatever amount you decide that you can pay. And use it as a catalyst to set your hybrid course business on an entirely new trajectory. Now, we'll go to Q&A in just a moment, but first I promised I would teach you how to handle it when you encounter price resistance, some variation of people saying that's too much. So here's how to handle it. First, don't get defensive. Don't take it as a criticism of you or your worth. Don't argue. Don't say, it really is worth it. Trust me, it's a good deal. Don't do that. Instead, just get curious. Say, when people say it's too much money, they usually mean one of 2 things. Sometimes they mean it's just not worth that much to me. And sometimes they mean, oh, it's worth that much to me, I just don't have the money. So just ask, which of those is it for you? And sometimes they'll say, well, it's just not worth that much to me. And that's really good feedback for you. And you can explore that with them. Sometimes they'll say, oh, it's worth that to me, I just don't have the money. And that's great because they've just told you it's not a question of whether they want to buy, it's a question of how they can afford it. And you can explore financing plans and other options with them. And sometimes, this is my favorite, they'll pause and they'll say, no, it's worth that much to me. And well, I do have the money, so I guess I'll just sign up. And the whole objection disappears. Put the word helpful into the chat if that is helpful to you. If next time you hear someone say, oh, that's a lot of money, you will try this approach. Awesome. Okay. Now, of course, this is not relevant to the hybrid course university because it's pay what you can. But generally, when you're selling a hybrid premium course, it's really important to have this approach in your back pocket. Now, I'm sure you have questions. We're almost at the bottom of the hour, but we'll run a little over. We'll go to at least a quarter to, maybe even past that. If you have questions, I would love to answer them. So drop them into the chat. Cassandra, what questions do people have? Let's try to answer what people want to know.
Wow, we have a lot of questions and a lot of excitement for the offer. So just the first question is, in the course, will you cover the tools that we need to follow through the steps to actually implement, like some of the strategies that you talked about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we teach you everything that you need to know. We guide you to the right tools. We are technology agnostic, so we'll recommend tools, but if there are tools you already have, then that's great. You can use them. And we're also technology minimalists. So we don't want you to buy and get set up with technologies that you don't need. So we really guide you to the most cost-effective way of getting this done.
Mm-hmm. And there's a really great question here. If someone said, I'm loving everything I see so far, and I have a question. This is going to be my first time. I have no geeky abilities, no mailing list, etc. So within the support you offer, is there anything like, I'll help you figure out your offer in terms of how to do things, not just what they have to offer?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, and absolutely. So here's the thing. We can't be experts in your subject matter for you. You have to have a real expertise. If you have real expertise, we can help you figure out what is the angle for the course topic, what is the exact direction to make it work. We can help you with all that. So you just come with your expertise. We will help you with all the rest.
And how much time, like approximately, do people need to invest, like per week, to really get the most out of the course in terms of the teaching and the coaching and implementation?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And the answer is that it depends, just because, people are different. People work at different speeds, different paces. But what we generally recommend to our students is you're going to want to have 5 to 15 hours a week to spend on not going through the lesson videos or anything. That won't take very long, but doing the work in the program in your business in order to get your course launched.
We have one person who said, I'm committed, but like, may my business partner be included with me, or would they need to buy HCU for themselves?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. So if you and basically the rule is that through HCU, we can help you build one course at a time. So if you and your business partner are each building separate courses, your business partner has to join separately. If you're working on the same course together, then they can share your login. That's all good. In fact, we encourage them to go through it with you so you guys will be on the same page. One of you will be the primary point of contact with your coach, but absolutely you can all share.
Another question is, I already have an online course and it is hybrid, but she needs help selling the course and scaling. Will this course help?
Yes, on a bunch of levels, and you're not going to like my answer for part of it. So definitely the audience course, the scale course will help you with that marketing and scaling. But what we recommend to people who come in with an existing course is you still want to go through hybrid course launch, because in my experience, 99 out of 100 times when someone has a course and people are not buying it, it's not because the marketing is missing. It's because there's something in the foundations that wasn't done right. So you're going to want to go through that launch course to start with, and everything that you've done right, you're just going to like zip through it and it'll be quick. But anything that wasn't done right, you're going to redo and get it right in order to be able to then grow.
We have a question from Norma who said, with so many people on this course and signing up, that's a lot of competition. Like, how will I thrive in a highly competitive field like that, especially in terms of management consulting and training?
Yeah, it's a great question. So remember the math we went over earlier about how many people you need to sign up for your course, right? You're not trying to be the world leader in management consulting courses. You're going to choose a narrow topic and have a high enough price point that even a relatively small number of sales can be totally game changing for you. There is a lot of room for premium, hybrid, significant courses that make an impact for people.
Absolutely. And who can we speak to with questions regarding the program? Like, if someone has additional questions beyond what we cover here today.
If someone has additional questions, or if you have a question that's in the chat, but there are 1,000 people and we don't find it for some reason, or if you have a question that comes to you like after we hang up, just reply to any email that you've received from us. Tell us what you want to know, and my team will do their very best to help you.
Okay. We had someone who said they're feeling really excited, but also they're feeling a little bit nervous. So can you just say, like, what does that feeling of nervousness? Does that mean they should do it? Or how can people make sense of that if they're feeling excited, but also a bit apprehensive about it?
I think it's a really good sign, right? Every time you're about to take a big step in your life, you're going to feel a little bit of those butterflies, right? This feeling that your body and your brain are telling you, hey, this is significant, right? It is a signal for you to take it seriously. So I don't think that's a problem at all. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. If it doesn't excite you, it doesn't make you nervous, maybe you're not stretching quite far enough. How long is the course?
The course runs 7 months. Again, the program, there are 3 courses inside of it, plus additional materials. You can go through it at your own pace. You can go through it faster. You can take longer if you so choose. But it's designed to be gone through over the course of 7 months, and that's how long you get the one-on-one coaching to guide you through.
Okay. Someone asked, Renee asked, is this going to be available in the future? She just doesn't have the funds for this at the time, but it sounds like such a great deal.
So we do one big enrollment into this program per year. We don't have a plan to do any further enrollments this year in 2023. Certainly not at the pay what you can pricing. So if this is something that you want to do and you want to take advantage of the pay what you can pricing, you're going to have until kind of mid next week to sign up. And if you want the early bird bonus, you have until Sunday at midnight.
Okay. And does this work for people outside of the US?
Oh, absolutely. A significant minority of our students are outside of the US. Maybe 35% of our students are outside the US.
And how long do they have access to the course materials for? Is it forever access?
You don't lose access to the training materials. You'll have access to the videos and the recordings in perpetuity.
Okay, fantastic. Um, some questions about the difference between HCU and ACES, like, what's the difference? If you want to speak to that, or
Yeah, sure. So ACES is our kind of premium business acceleration coaching program. It's not curriculum based. It's not focused on just courses. It's a fantastic program. I recommend it to everyone who's a good fit. And it's a very significant investment. It's $27,000 a year. So I think everyone can kind of get a good intuitive sense of, am I at the scale of my business where what I need is a $27,000 investment to really take me to the next level? And if so, send an email to us, say I'm interested in ACES, and we'll hook you up with an exploration of that. Or am I earlier in my business and what I really need is to get some building blocks in place, in which case $500 plus you decide the rest is really the best deal you're ever going to find.
for sure, for sure. And there's a question about the guarantee. Is it like, do you have all 7 months to make the $6,000 and
Yes,
request a refund, or is there another time period?
you have the 7 months to go through the course, do the work, apply it, and make the $6,000.
Okay. And here's a question: what if I already have a course? Like, could someone start with the audience course rather than go through launch?
So, I mean, I mentioned this earlier, but again, 99 out of 100 times when people ask me that, it's the wrong move, right? You really want to go through the launch course first, make sure that your foundations are all done properly. Otherwise, if you didn't do a good job setting yourself up with your course, then building the audience isn't going to help and doing the marketing isn't going to help. So you've got to do all the steps in order.
Mhm. And is there any other kind of fees for software or application that people might need to have in order to really benefit from the course?
Yeah, so I mean, you need the basic software you're going to need to run an online business. You're going to need your email marketing software, maybe a course software. We do recommend tools. We even hook you up with a trial to a really good course management software. If you want it, you're welcome to use whatever tool you want. But these are the basic costs you're going to have to run an online business, regardless of whether you're doing it with our guidance or not. And it'll top out around, $100 and a bit per month, and you don't need it all to start with.
Mhm. And when does the course begin? Like, when does it actually kick off?
May 30th.
And is there a payment plan for the activation fee?
Nope, there is not. It's $500, one shot. You've got to do it with a credit card. That's the only way it works.
Mhm. And how often, and we're going through as quick as we can, how often will the milestone calls be that people
Well,
get with
they're
a coach?
milestone calls, right? So it's not about you get a call every X number of weeks. You get a call as you hit milestones. The faster you move through the program, the faster you unlock the milestones.
Okay, absolutely. Uh, there's another question. What aspects do people keep only for the 7 months? And what aspects, of course, do they retain access to past the 7 months?
You keep access to all the training materials and recordings. The coaching is only available for 7 months.
And do you mostly use ChatGPT or other AI tools as well? Or is it mainly based on ChatGPT?
Well, here's the thing. Most of the AI tools that are available out there are built on top of ChatGPT. So we focus on ChatGPT, which is available for free to everyone. We'll guide you towards other tools where appropriate.
And then there was a question about like who actually will be doing the coaching. So there was a guess that it's not all of you, all of it done by you, Danny, which I think is correct.
That is correct. I have a team of coaches that work for me full time. We train them in our processes and methodologies. They know this material inside and out. They also work together. So if they ever have questions, they ask each other and they have a direct line to me.
Okay. And question like, how many times have you offered HCU before?
So we offered HCU as a new program last year. We've enrolled, I don't know, give or take 1,000 people in the program so far. And we've been teaching people about course building and kind of iterating our program for close to a decade now. We've trained many, many thousand successful course creators in this industry.
And do we help if, or do you help if we have trouble constructing things like landing pages, or if there's like some kind of issues with tech? Is there some support with that or some instruction about that?
Yeah, we have templates, we have guidance, we've got you covered.
Okay. Fantastic. So that's all the questions that I had on my list. Now I'm scrolling through the chat. Team has been doing fantastic. Question is, what's the duration of the coaching course? So like approximately like kind of how much coaching do they get included?
Yeah, so I'll answer the question, but it's kind of the wrong question because it's not the minutes of coaching that lead to transformation, right? That's not the point. The point is the acceleration you get from the combination of the curriculum, the assignments, the feedback, et cetera. And a lot of your interactions with your coach are not on calls. It's through emails, it's through the feedback they give you on the homework assignments you submit. So with that being said, your coaching calls are mostly going to be 30 minutes long, and they are a whole bunch of them, as I said, at different milestones through the program.
Is it a self-paced program?
So there's a community going through the course together. There's kind of a prescribed pace, but you don't have to stick with that pace. You can slow down if you want, that's your choice, or you can move faster. That's an option too.
Okay. Right. I think we have covered pretty much most of the questions.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, there are many, many people on this call, and you've all been wonderful. Thank you for your engagement, your participation, your energy through the whole training. I know that many of you are excited to join us. I am excited for many of you to join us. Go to mrsc.co/HCU, reserve your spot in the program. Definitely do it by Sunday at midnight to take advantage of the early bird bonus. I mean, I guess you could do it next week, but then you won't get the early bird bonus. So, you might as well do it by Sunday. I'm very excited to work with many of you. And I know that you're probably going to have some questions that come up between now and later in the weekend, et cetera. Reply to any email you've received from us. My team will do their very best to answer. But just be aware that, it is the weekend, especially if you email us at like 10 p.m. on Sunday night, you probably won't get a response that night. So don't wait until the last minute. So go ahead, reserve your spot. We are very excited to work with you. I wish you a wonderful rest of the day, a wonderful rest of the weekend. And here's to a very exciting rest of the year together, building your hybrid courses, using AI to make it easy, to make it effective, and creating a real engine for transformation for your life and for all the lives that you touch. Thank you all so, so much.